Just a couple notes as we get started. First, I've included in your handouts a bibliography. These are the resources that I've used in putting together this course. My top recommendation, as I mentioned last week, is this book. The title is Daily Doctrine, and it's Systematic Theology as a Devotional. So you can make it a part of your daily devotions, morning devotions, and it's a great resources. If you were inclined to purchase a systematic theology textbook, I would recommend this one. The title is Systematic Theology, an Introduction to Biblical Doctrine by Wayne Grudem. And it's very comprehensive, a lot of depth to it, but it's very readable. And it's a book that I've really enjoyed. So those are my top recommendations for you. I ended last week with an observation. The observation was, because God is wholly other, which is Karl Barth's term for God, because God is wholly other, we would never know Him if not for Him choosing to reveal Himself to us in ways that we can understand. We would never know God if not for God choosing to reveal Himself to us in ways that we can understand. That God did this is the great biblical doctrine of revelation. Not Revelation the book, but revelation as in God's self-disclosure, His revealing Himself to us. Recall Carl Henry's quote, "Revelation is God's unmasking of Himself. It is God stepping out of His hiddenness to disclose what would otherwise remain secret and unknown." And so the question that we are going to consider this morning and next week is, how has God done this? How has God unmasked Himself? How has God stepped out of His hiddenness to tell us who He is? Systematic theologians divide God's self-disclosure into two broad categories. The first is what's called general revelation. And then second is special. General revelation and special revelation. There's nothing complicated in these terms. General revelation simply means, or has to do with what God has revealed or disclosed about Himself to everyone. So some theologians refer to it as universal revelation. What God has revealed or disclosed about Himself to every person. In contrast, special revelation is what God has revealed or disclosed about Himself, but only to certain individuals or groups. Only to certain individuals or groups. So I'll put some here. And some theologians refer to this as particular revelation. So you have general, universal revelation, special, particular revelation. What we're going to do, our plan going forward, is we're going to talk about general revelation for the rest of today, and we'll talk about special revelation next week. Again, general revelation is what God has revealed about Himself to everyone, and we have two key questions for us to consider about this. Number one, by what means? By what means has God disclosed Himself to everyone? We might think of this as the how question. How has God revealed Himself to everyone? And then the second question for us to consider is, what is the content of this revelation? Think of this as the what question. What has God revealed about Himself to everyone? An important passage that addresses both of these questions is Romans 1. So let's go ahead and turn in our Bibles to the book of Romans chapter 1. Martin Luther referred to Romans. He said the epistle to the Romans is the true masterpiece of the New Testament. Pastor John, have you preached through Romans yet in your career? How many sermons do you remember?
Took 2.5 years.
Took 2.5 years?
Pretty quick.
Okay. Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones, who was a famous preacher in England in the 1900s, it took him over 10 years. Was it 14 years? He preached. There's 400 and some verses in Romans. He preached 366 hour-long sermons. So it was almost an hour-long sermon on every verse of the book of Romans. So, if you took my history class last year, it was Martin Luther's study and teaching of the book of Romans that was instrumental in the launching of the Reformation. He had been called upon to teach at a newly formed university. For year one, he taught the Psalms. Year two, he taught Romans. And it was through a study of Romans that, bam, the Reformation was launched. So, the book of Romans is the true masterpiece of the New Testament. This masterpiece begins with a universal indictment of humanity. A universal indictment of humanity. Carrie, would you mind reading verses 18 through 23? And typically we'll be using the ESV version in here as we do in the worship service. So verses 18 through 23.
By their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world, and the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor God as God, but they became and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of immortal God for images resembling mortal men, and birds, and animals, and creeping things.
Powerful passage. Powerful passage. And it's very important for us to understand this passage as Christians. Let me just fire some questions at you. We'll call this our lightning round, okay? Question 1, according to this passage, what is the means of God's self-disclosure? What is the means of God's self-disclosure? Creation. Verse 20, in the things that have been made. Question 2, is God's self-disclosure through creation ambiguous or unambiguous? Ambiguous or unambiguous? Jordan, what would you say according to this passage? Unambiguous. What language does Paul use to state that? Clearly seen. Verse 19, plain to them. It is plain to them. Verse 20, clearly perceived. Question 3, what does humanity do with this knowledge? According to Paul, what does humanity do with this plain knowledge, this plain self-disclosure? Jake? Suppress. Humanity suppresses it. What does it mean to suppress knowledge? Huh? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm getting old. I can't hear as good. Hold back. What does it mean to suppress knowledge? Boys, I'm going to be asking you questions too, so. To not acknowledge it. Push it down. Kind of think of suppress, putting a wet blanket over something. To suppress means to intentionally ignore or deny that which is known to be true. Talk about an indictment of humanity. Paul says humanity intentionally ignores or denies that which humanity knows to be true. Let that sink in. Okay, the more difficult question now, number 4. What is the content of God's revelation through creation? In other words, what is it specifically that God plainly tells us about himself through creation? Not through his word. We'll get to that. But what is it through creation that God plainly tells humanity about himself? Lily.
His eternal power.
His eternal power. Lily, expand on that.
Power never ends.
His power is infinite, it never ends. Okay, good.
It's all inclusive.
His power is all inclusive. Okay, good. What does God plainly tell humanity about himself through creation? Think about you outside, looking out at creation, looking out at the world. Remember, what Paul is saying is that God is communicating plainly to us about himself through what you see outside.
He's faithful.
His faithfulness, how does creation communicate that?
Just in the fact that the world keeps on spinning, like the
Oh, I see.
the waves travel on the shore and like everything is just coming.
Okay. So he's constant. Would that be a way of saying it?
To build on what Virginia's saying, after the flood, God promised that the season will always happen from that point forward.
Love that. Love that. See, that's great to build on what others say. That's good. What else does God communicate plainly to humanity about himself through creation?
His glory.
Okay. What do we mean by his glory?
A lot of all that he is, but the heavens declare the glory of God.
Well, you just stole my thunder from later. Stole my thunder, get it? No. What do you mean by the glory of God? The heavens declare, creation declares the glory of God. What does that mean?
He declares himself everywhere and everywhere.
He declares himself everywhere. Not sure we've nailed it yet.
Righteousness.
The heavens declare his righteousness. How does it do that? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking you to... Huh? How does creation declare the holiness of God? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking for follow-up.
Of a magnitude beyond our perception.
Say that again.
A magnitude beyond our perception.
Wow, there's a magnitude. There's something about God that is beyond our ability to comprehend and take it all in. Is that what you're saying? Wow. Yes.
It's as simple as there has to be a creator. All of this didn't just happen. It has been created. But
So you're saying that the existence of creation, what we can see, it is plainly obvious to us that there is a creator. You boys have anything to add in here? Yeah?
That he's God and we're sinners.
Okay, you had two parts to that. Creation communicates that there is a God. And you say part B, the creation communicates that we are sinners. How does it do that?
I feel like that's the most, everyone can agree in the world, no one disagrees that people are sinners, they do bad things. Like, we prove it ourselves.
It is self-evident, okay? We're going to come back to that point because that is a very good, we're going to come back to that today. See, these young people have so much to offer. Anything else? Jake?
I think it was
Nathaniel?
yeah, so just to follow up with what he said, it made my mind think of Romans 8, starting in verse 21. It says that creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. And just basically saying that creation is evidently experiencing the effects of the fall.
Wow. So it's clear that there's a brokenness.
Yes, and I think that's very, very obvious when you look outside.
Wow. Yes.
I think that creation, especially when we look at other humans, reflects God's character.
How so? It reflects his character, she says.
Yeah, so like someone who's good at communicating, like really eloquent with their words, God spoke creation into existence. Were reflections of Him.
Okay.
Artistic, He created the whole trees and stuff. And we can create imitations of it, like on paper or sculptures, but it's not. It's just a reflection of it. Not exactly. It's not as good as the original.
That's awesome. Thank you. Very good. Anything else that God plainly reveals about himself through creation? Pastor?
Well, just in the three words there, invisible attributes, namely, eternal power and divine nature.
Yeah.
So underneath those, so namely, it doesn't unpack divine nature. It doesn't unpack eternal power. But there are things that go along with those words that
Yeah.
are in those categories. And so this is where philosophers can actually, you know, why is there morality? Why is there good and evil? Why do we know these things? Why, you know, the fact that somebody mentioned creation exists, it didn't come from nothing. So there's a lot of implication in those words that you have to end somewhere.
Yes.
A lot of philosophers end up with a metaphysical reason for the existence of the universe, like acknowledging God.
Right.
It's like they just don't.
They suppress
They don't
it.
give it a name.
They suppress the obvious. Yeah. Okay, anything you want to add to this list? I'm not sure I well captured everything, but Jake. Jake number 2. We got Jake number 1, Jake number 2.
A very large amount of knowledge.
Okay. Develop that, add to that.
All-knowing.
Did you like what she said? All knowing? Okay. So the creation communicates a God who is all knowing. Does this capture it all? Are we done? Asher?
He's a God who provides.
How does the creation communicate that God is a provider?
He feeds the small animals and the birds, and he also provides for us.
Very good.
I think to tack onto that, it kind of shows his his care for the details. Right? If you look at the grand scope of creation,
Is everyone hearing everybody okay? Okay.
if you look at the grand scope of creation, you can see him. Then if you really kind of drill down, like Asher was saying, like even further than the birds, like he the things that he does and cares about to provide food for the birds, but then he also provides for the insects that the birds feed on.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got the big details all the way down to the most minute things that we don't even think about.
Yes. Good. Marion has something to add? I saw a hand over here. Yeah. Michaela? Okay, how does creation communicate that God is merciful? I'm not saying you're wrong, I just want you to explain it. Okay. All right. Okay, anything else you want to add? We got it all? Sister, Roger.
God is to be feared, because we're fearfully and wonderfully made.
Okay. So God is fearsome? Okay.
Sleep is merciful.
Sleep?
It's merciful.
Oh, okay. Okay. Systematic theologians agree on 6 things that God communicates about himself through creation, through what has been made. 3 of them come from Romans 1. First is that God exists. God exists. Verse 20, in the things that have been made. It is evident to every human being by looking out, seeing creation, it is clear, it is plain, there is a God. God exists. Second, this God is powerful. This God is powerful. Verse 20, eternal power. Eternal power. And then the third thing that Romans 1 gives us, that he is divine. Verse 20 says, of divine nature. That means it is plainly obvious that God, this God who exists and is powerful, is of a different quality or nature than we humans. One that is superior. So according to Romans 1, God exists, he's powerful, he's divine. He's separate from humanity. Or to go back to Karl Barth's, he is wholly other. Now, what systematic theologians do is they'll take a passage like Romans 1 and drill down deep and see the 3 things that are presented, but then add to it from other passages. So go to, I think Aaron mentioned this, go to Psalm 19, verse 1.
Heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork.
Well, Roger, you had that memorized? Oh, okay. Is there any surprise that Roger was prepared? He is always prepared. The most prepared man I think I know. Read that again, Roger.
The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork.
So the 4th thing that God reveals about himself through creation is that he is glorious. I'm not sure I got the answer to my question earlier. What does it mean that God is glorious? It's not just we Christians who are saying this, which we certainly do, but God makes it obvious to all humanity that he is glorious. What does that mean? By the way, Just to save time, I sometimes will call on someone either to read or give a comment. If you wish not to, just say pass, okay? That's a signal for me to move on. And it can be any reason why you would say pass. Maybe I just woke you up, okay? Steph, did I just wake you up? No, you have okay.
If you've ever watched a sunrise, right? You
Yes.
can understand the glory, the death.
You can't use the word
Sorry.
to define the word.
We were talking about it earlier, that the magnitude beyond perception. That's what
Did you just come up with
No, I
that?
wrote it down when we said it.
Okay.
But that you can see, he could just have the sun come up. It didn't have to be this great moment every morning displaying also his faithfulness that comes up every morning.
Okay.
It-
Virginia?
Sometimes I struggle with words like this that are self-inflicted.
Yes. That's why I'm asking. Let's define it.
So if I could take a stab at it, could it be something that calls worship?
There you go. There you go. To say that God is glorious is to say that He is to be praised. He is to be worshiped. He is to be reverenced. Marked by great beauty and splendor. Entitled to great renown. So God, through creation, makes it plain to everyone that He exists, He's powerful, He's divine, He is entitled to worship. He is a being marked by great beauty and splendor. Again, He's communicating that not just to us Christians, but to every person on the planet. Now go to Acts 14. And we're going to pick up on what Nathaniel was getting. I can't remember if it was Nathaniel or Asher was getting at this. Acts 14. And got it, Nathaniel? Acts 14.
I got it.
Okay. Verse 17, nice and loud. Acts 14, verse 17.
Yet he did not leave himself without witness, for he did good by giving you rains from heaven and fruitful seasons, satisfying your hearts with food and gladness.
Okay. What does this verse suggest as to the content of God's self-disclosure through creation? What does this verse suggest as to the content? What is God communicating about Himself through creation? Alex.
That he provides.
He provides. Theologians use the term God is benevolent toward His creation. So through general revelation, God is communicating that He exists, He's powerful, He's divine, He's glorious, and He is benevolent toward His creation. And this gets to what you said about the seasons and all that. He provides. He's good toward His creation. Sends them rain, trees that bear fruit. He satisfies our hearts with food and gladness, whether we're Christian or not. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Doc.
I guess what I wanted to say earlier under the provision thing, which is what you're talking about, just the earth itself, how it's made and where it sits and how it's tilted on its axis. I don't know, all kinds of facts that I don't know, but
Yeah.
if we're an inch closer to the sun,
Yes.
it burns up, and if we're an inch farther away.
Yes.
It's amazing that we go in search of a place to build on Mars, or the moon. To me, that's amazing that we think that way. We might have to escape the earth, which is the only place that gets rain
Right.
and grows plants.
Yeah.
So,
With the oxygen we need and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. We got one more. Go to Romans 2. Now, Nathaniel, this is what you were getting at. I got you and Asher mixed up. Go to Romans 2. And Pickleball, do you want to read verses 14 through 16? Romans 2, verses 4. He plays pickleball every day, so he's really good.
For when Gentiles who do not have the law by nature do what the law requires, they are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law. But they show that the work of the law is written on their hearts, while their conscience also bears witness, and their conflicting thoughts accuse or even excuse them. On that day when, according to my gospel, God judges the secrets of men by Christ Jesus.
Okay, think carefully about this now, because it's probably not obvious. What do these verses suggest as to the content of God's self-disclosure through creation? Think carefully. What are these verses suggesting as to the content of God's self-disclosure through creation? Yes.
That he's the source of divine law, and he's the judge of
Okay.
that law.
That he is a source of divine law and he is a judge. Jake?
Summarize that with righteous.
Say that again.
I mean, I guess would we summarize that as righteous?
That he's righteous. Okay. Anyone want to add to that? Julia? That he's just. Love it. Anybody else? Dan?
Kind of seems like God gave us all a little mini godly human creature to tell us what's right and wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, the simple word I would use, that God is moral. He is a moral being. These verses speak of man's conscience, man's inherent sense of right and wrong. The inference being that if man has this inherent sense of right and wrong, certainly God does as well. And so all those things that you mentioned are right. Righteous, just. I'm just setting it under the umbrella of moral.
That also points back to the fact that he is creator and that he has written that within each of us.
Yes, yes. So, put all this together now. Through general revelation, through what has been made, God communicates to all of humanity, see if I can get these in the right order, that he exists, he's powerful, he's divine, of a different nature than us, he's glorious, he's benevolent toward what he has made, and he is moral. Comments, thoughts? Missing anything? Yes, sir?
He's obvious.
He's obvious. Yeah, that's the point. It's plain. It's plain. Now back to Romans 1. What should be man's response to God's general revelation? Put the Bible aside. Put the gospel aside. Don't quote me on it, I said that. But for our purposes of discussion, what should be man's response to what God has revealed about himself through creation? Yes.
Obedience and worship.
Obedience and worship. What does Paul say in Romans 1? Huh? Gratitude and honor. Worship and thanksgiving. What ought to be man's response to God's general revelation, what he has disclosed himself plainly, is that he is to be worshiped and thanked. Sadly, that is not the response that humanity gives. Humanity suppresses that truth, and what does man do instead? Humanity slash man. What do we do instead? What do we turn to instead? Look at the passage. We worship the creation, which is the I word, idolatry. Very important passage of Scripture. But now we left 10 minutes because I want you to consider something. We've considered the means of his revelation. We've considered the content of it. The last thing we might consider about God's general revelation is the effect of it. I'm going to assert something that I want you to then comment on, okay? I'm going to make an assertion and then ask you to comment on it. And I get to play the devil's advocate here, okay? All right, here's my assertion. God's general revelation, while significant and meaningful, is not sufficient to save anyone. It is only sufficient to condemn everyone. Let me repeat that. Here's my assertion. God's general revelation, which we've spent 30 minutes talking about, while significant and meaningful, and I think we would all agree with that, is not sufficient to save anyone, not a single person. It is only sufficient to condemn everyone. Thoughts? Thoughts? Yes.
I think that's very accurate because it shows the grandeur of God and how we are so not God.
Okay.
And but that doesn't give a solution to what do we do?
Doesn't give a solution to the brokenness that is obvious to us that someone said here. Craig? You need to speak up. You need to speak up.
Sufficient to save anyone because he doesn't owe us anything.
He doesn't owe us anything. Okay.
And to condemn everyone that he judges our depravity.
Say that again.
To condemn everyone.
Yes.
Judges our depravity.
He judges our depravity. Okay. Okay, I'm going to sharpen my question. And I ask you to think seriously about this. Is it fair of God to send people to hell? To send people to eternal conscious torment merely on the basis of their response to general revelation, which quite possibly for millions and millions of people on the globe are all they receive? I'd ask you to think deeply about this question. Is it fair of God to send millions upon millions of people to eternal conscious torment merely on the basis of their response to general revelation, which is all they received? Okay, we got several hands. Good, huh? Start with my buddy here. Speak up, you gotta speak up.
Yes, because if we hadn't goofed up general revelation, there'd have been no need for special revelation.
Okay. Say that again.
Yes, because if we hadn't messed up on general revelation, we would have never needed the special revelation.
Okay. Okay. I saw hands over here. Michaela,
Think about
you have to speak up though.
you have to think about the other side of it. What is heaven? Heaven is eternal glorification and worship of God. If you don't believe in said God, then why go to heaven?
Okay. Okay. Because they don't want to worship God, you're saying. Okay. Doc,
Well, I quibble with the question at this point.
you can't do that.
I quibble all the time.
Yeah.
That's how I made my living, was quibbling.
I thought I was playing the devil's advocate, but you are. No, you go ahead.
Probably brothers from different mothers.
We,
That's
yes.
how we-
Go ahead, Doc.
The whole concept of fair, there is no standard by which God can be judged. He is the yardstick. There's no standard outside of God to which he is accountable. Therefore, one of Bach's cantatas has the line, whatever God ordains is just. It's just because he is the yardstick. He is the standard. What he does is by definition good. So I quibble with it.
Okay, I get that.
No way to judge fair or unfair.
I take
by
that.
What he does.
I take that. I take that. Yes, and what's your name? Heather.
Another one.
Ah. And what's your husband's name?
Chris.
Chris and Heather. I know.
Many years, and it was, God will always absolutely do what is absolutely
Right. Going to his point. Yes.
I'm so thankful for mercy and grace.
Yes.
We don't deserve him.
Right.
The fact that he created us and called us to himself is amazing to me. And I really struggle with this because Cornelius, like it just makes me think, and I know you're going to teach on that, I'm sure eventually, but when he was, helping and he was devout and he was praying to God and he really took care of the Jews during that time.
Yeah.
And he still needed that special revelation.
Yes.
It was called from Jehovah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Heather.
Really struggled with that bit, and I'm so thankful.
Okay. So Heather agrees with Doc, but yet there's a struggle. Fair, Doc?
Our emotions don't always follow our knowledge
Yeah.
in lockstep.
Okay. Let's hear from someone else. Let's hear from someone else. Is it fair of God to send people to hell merely on the basis of their response to general revelation, which quite possibly is all they received? Yes.
I just have a question. Actually. Is fairness and justice the same thing?
I'm using them interchangeably, but yeah. In this context, I'm using them interchangeably. Yep.
I mean, we just made a list of, we just made a list about how God is all-knowing, and he provides, and he's merciful, and, I mean, how can we even answer this question?
Because I'm asking you.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean,
You can't say pass for the whole class.
I mean, he just, because he can, if he chooses who's gonna be with him.
Which is
then-
Doc's point, which is right. Doc's point is right.
I mean, because I mean, that is what I believe. I mean, he knows who's gonna be with him and who's not, and
I sometimes encourage with regard to questions like this, imagine it's your 4th grade son or daughter asking you. How would you respond to him or her? Virginia?
I think it's kind of the glass half full, glass half empty type of question, because God created Adam and Eve in perfect communion with him, and sin broke that relationship. And so it's not necessarily, is God fair for sending people to hell, but is he merciful for saving some?
Yeah. So you would go to his mercy. Okay. Anybody else want to speak to this? Pickleball?
Based on what God had spoken in Romans, because we all suppress the truth of God, and instead of being thankful and honoring Him, we decide to basically do away with all of the things that are obvious to us.
Yes.
And we wanted to do our own thing.
Yes.
From that standpoint, His judgment is fair.
Is righteous, is fair. Yes. Jordan?
Where I go in my mind, Romans 8. Well, what does molded say to its molder? Why have you made me like this? Like the whole concept that he is the creator. So it is fair and just that he creates some for one purpose and some for another. It may not seem like it to
Yeah.
us, but
Here's the answer. We got to wrap up. Here's the answer or the response, not the answer, the response I would give. God is just because no one responds rightly to the truth about God that is received through general revelation. Instead of glorifying Him, we purposefully redirect our religious impulse to the worship of idols, to worship created things rather than the Creator. However, in His grace, God has also given special revelation, which we will discuss next week. As we close this morning, let's sing again that first verse of How Great Thou Art, because that first verse recognizes the glory of God in and through His creation.